Okay, so hey Prude. So we got our flowers put in their vase. And Prudence wants to go outside. She doesn't like the tunnel I made her out to her tree fort. Oh gosh. My thing is just, I guess, I used to kind of enjoy, well, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but I used to watch the news pretty regularly, and I felt like it was important to know what is kind of going on with the world and COVID and everything, because I'm not out in the world, so I used to feel like watching the news was important. But the kind of the thing that's going on in my mind with current events, I guess, is I'm always bitching about, morality, or like right versus wrong, and people telling other people to do something because it's the right thing to do, and my big beef with morality and like this is the right thing to do, when you're saying that to somebody else, my beef with that is just, it's really small scope thinking, and that's hardly ever helpful the way we want it to be. I think that when we have something really like scary going on, like a pandemic, like a viral pandemic, we do get scared, and it's really natural to just kind of say, to reach out real quick and say like, well, here's the problem. And it really makes me sad to see our president of the United States looking into a camera and saying they're killing people. And if you people will look at the whole of what was going on there, that's not a snippet of Joe Biden saying that Facebook is killing people because they're saying things that he doesn't like. What he's saying is the people who are unvaccinated are killing people. The people who are refusing to be vaccinated are killing people. It was actually a really lucky break for him that the media thought that he was saying those Facebook people are killing people. What he really said is that the American people that voted for him are killing people because they won't take the vaccine. So he's now made a moral issue of being vaccinated, which is what I was upset about society, the people around me doing as well. That Dr. Campbell, who I really enjoy listening to, the doctor from the UK, I enjoy his material, and I enjoy him because he's a good, curious doctor. He's a good, smart, curious doctor. Not because he has a moral bias that says this is the right thing to do. You have to get vaccinated because it's the right thing to do. It's a moral difference. So that's easy enough for me to look at and kind of cast to the side. I can watch this doctor because he's a good doctor. And he does talk about vaccines being important, but he'll be the first one to stand up and say, I don't think it's right to force people to get vaccinated against their consent. Yes, people should be getting vaccinated. Yes, it is the moral right thing to do, but he's a good doctor. When I have footage of the president of the United States, who just a few months ago said, the government is responsible for doing things that you as citizens cannot do. The same president that said, I want to do things for you that you can't do for yourself. I want to make sure your government is doing for you what it needs to do, because there are things that as citizens you can't do that your government can only do for you. This same guy is on camera saying these unvaccinated morons are killing people. It's making it a moral issue, and it's making us and them out of his very own citizenry. And the problem with that, as you know, good intention, he thinks it's the moral right, and he's passionate about what he thinks is morally right. And I used to think that was commendable or something that had to do with integrity, but now I see that it doesn't. Because when we look at the big picture, instead of doing this small picture, people like me or what's wrong with the world today, what we're not looking at is the fact that the US is buying a lot of vaccines from places like India, and places like India don't have the vaccine that they need for their citizenry. They're manufacturing our medicine so that we buy it. What good is all of that doing their people, their citizenry? And how protected are the people of the world against this virus, even if 100% of America was vaccinated, and even if Europe and the US mandatory, like made vaccination mandatory, every single unvaccinated person in the rest of the world is still breeding and passing COVID back and forth. So, I mean, unless you want to wrap every American and European in plastic bubbles and seal off the borders and really make it an us against them outright and just say it out loud that that's what we're doing, screaming about people at home not getting vaccinated isn't gonna, I mean, it's not a moral issue that people in one country are refusing to be vaccinated. It's not a moral issue. That's not what's killing people, honey. COVID is killing people. It's not Facebook. It's not the unvaccinated. Get your head out of your emotions. Get your head out of your ass. And I'll finally just come right out and say it. I have an issue with IQ tests because I have an extremely low IQ. I don't know how many people that's gonna, make their day today, but yeah, education should be a privilege, and being in these professions that hold power should be a privilege. But jumping through hoops like IQ tests and like placement, whatever, like jumping through hoops in order to get money because money means you matter, because money means you're good enough, doesn't make you an elite in your field. And going to college doesn't make you an elite either. And making it so that only elites with high IQs can go to college isn't the way to do it either. So, I mean, it's not this issue of like clamping down more control over citizenry and saying, if you don't jump through the hoops, you won't get the money, you won't matter. It's not about putting more hoops up. If you don't get the vaccine, then you're a morally bad person and you don't matter. It's not about putting more fences for us and them. It's about, hey, as a politician, what can I do? As a politician, what can I do that the American citizenry cannot do that would really help? And I can't help but wonder, how many of these positions that people hold do they really hold because they're essential positions that they actually need to be there? How many people come to work just because their body being in that building means you can meet a higher quota of like people in the building because you have somebody there to keep track? Or I can't help but wonder And it really breaks my heart, because I really think that the world, or like society, or like people today, believe that if there was a guaranteed income, 90% of humanity would just sit on their asses at home and be lazy slobs. If you made it so that not everybody had to go out and tear the blood in dollar form out of other people's hands in person, if you made it so that that wasn't a necessity to live, if we all had financial needs met, if there were regulations. In the state that I live, it's actually illegal to impose a regulation on a rent price. So in the state of Washington, it's illegal to have rent control. If everybody had a source of blood, money into their lives, and somebody was man enough to say, okay, this is what Americans have access to for an income, so this is what rent's going to be. You really think that if needs were met and people had a sense of security, they'd just sit at home and jack off and watch TV all day? You don't think that people have interests that would benefit society if they could follow those interests in their own way? You don't think that government needs to have more to do with regulating the economy and making sure people's financial needs are met, less to do with what you get to believe or not believe, less to do with moral rights and wrongs and creating these moral corrals of us versus them? Do you really think that we need people in office to look into a camera and shame our moral values? Or do you think that they need to do what we can't do in a society and make sure that everyone's needs are met? That there's an equitable access to basic human needs. My IQ is not high, which means I don't acquire, process, and store information in the same OS, the same operating system or format that a lot of people do. It's a sensory experience in here that's different. So a lot of my anger, a lot of my confusion has to do with personality disorder stuff, maladaptive personality traits, has a lot to do with a lack of proper hormonal function. But let me tell you, it also has to do with a sensory experience that is different. I think the average IQ is 110, 108. I'm 107. I've taken it when I was 15 and I've taken it this year. I have a lower than average IQ. And it's not because I'm dumb. It's because I don't process information. I don't store information. My sensory experience is different. And it doesn't mean that I'm dumb. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't benefit from somebody's time if they were to sit down and offer me education. And it doesn't mean that I could never be an expert in any field. But it does mean that the stacks are up against me right now. That, because I have, a low average low IQ, because I don't do well in school settings, because I don't do well in professional settings. Unless I have a brand, like some kooky entertainment, kitschy thing that people want to buy, that's just my name, I'll become Oprah and just have an agenda that is my personal self, buy me. If that's not prostitution, I don't know what is. I'm not here to be exploited. And I'm not here to convince somebody or anybody that I'm smart or that I deserve a job. I know I don't. I know I don't deserve a shot at your blood. And I'm not going to go to a shop or an industry or a place that I like going to and ask for a job, because I know that's not going to end well. Because I know I'm a bad investment. If employee retention is important to you, then don't hire me. If having somebody who will show up when their name is on the schedule for that day, don't hire me. You're going to need somebody to be nice to your customers so they come back the next time they need something from your shitty store. Don't hire me. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to eat. Anyway, I know I'm going to have to get vaccinated eventually. Like, COVID's not going away. And I don't think our economy and our society is structured in such a way that we're actually going to get honestly interested and curious about how this virus works and how differently bodies respond to it and why. I really think it's well, we have the vaccine, and fuck you if you don't take it. Whereas, the rest of the countries in the world, they're not rich enough. They don't matter enough to get vaccinated. So while I'm over here getting shot up with virus genetic material and T cells that I don't believe you know what you're talking about when you tell me about them. And I know you don't know what you're talking about when you tell me about my body. So no, there is no trust. There's not enough trust. And I would rather live alone with these cats and just pass COVID back and forth between the two of us and whatever, make our own variant. I'd rather just, I don't know, just hope I get COVID and sit at home and just refuse to ever go to the doctor. And just, I have to admit that part of not getting vaccinated is this like back pocket insurance policy that maybe I won't have to trudge through an entire lifetime. And I don't like that. That's not cool. Pisses me off when people in self-help communities want to say, that part of you has to die so that, the new, bigger, better you, your ego can crumble and die and fall apart and grow back bigger, better. Yeah, but there is no part of me or who I am that I'm ever going to be okay with feeling like needs to die. No, I don't heal. I don't get better. I don't transmute anger into love by thinking any part of me ever needs to die in this lifetime. No. My mom gave me life to live. Like, I came here to live this time. This isn't, no thank you, no. Absolutely no single part of me needs to die. The only rebirth we need is the one we get in the morning when we open our eyes.